Hello, it's Rob here and welcome to this photo montage video of my build of my Tamiya Toyota Bruiser on the RN36 chassis. I got this, I think it was about 2015, way before I started doing videos really, but because of how complex and all the gears and everything and all the metal bits in this, I did go through it and take some photos, so this is all my photos that I took during the build process. Steps 1, 2, 3 and 4 are all to do with basically putting the ladder chassis together, all metal bits mostly, and the mounts for the leaf spring suspension. Step 5 is making up the bevel gears. You need to make 2 of these and they're both identical. Step 6 is the diffs for the axles. How cool is this? 6 planetary gears in each diff on a 1/10 scale truck. 7 is making up the rear axle. I mean, how special is this kit? Both axles, cast aluminium housings, all metal pieces. Same for the front axle, only this time it's shorter due to needing room for the steering knuckles, which come up in the next step. As you can see, again, all metal parts. Moving on to step 10, which is making up the leaf spring. As you can see here, quite a few, and it wasn't that easy, if I'm honest, lining the axles up and bolting them just like you would on a real car. And steps 11 and 12 are installing the axle assemblies onto the chassis itself, ready for wheels and steering, etc. This was fairly easy, however, I do remember, I think, having to undo some of those U-bolts and reposition the axles on the mountings just to get them level before fully tightening them back up again. Steps 13 and 14 are the CVA oil dampers only. No external springs, just a tiny one for the middle. 15, these strange wheel hubs. Those 3 holes on the outside are what you screw the wheel onto. I get onto adding the rear dampers and the rear wheel hubs. The front dampers and wheel hubs, and also skid plates. We're now getting on to the 3-speed gearbox. First off is the transfer shaft and transmission cover of step 18. 19 was making up the main shaft with the 3 main gears, 9 bearings. Wow. Step 20, the shift fork assembly. Now this was a bit complicated for me to get my head round, and I think I may have spent a couple of nights sat there twiddling my thumbs trying to work out what to do. The subshaft was again a fairly easy thing to make up. Just a couple of bearings on this one. The planetary gear assembly, yet another one with 9 bearings in total, and not that difficult to assemble, but it doesn't half look cool if you ask me. Step 23 is the spur gear assembly and the motor mount plate, and yet again more bearings, including a whopping 2415 one. And then it's just the motor to install, and as you can see from the photos, it's a special motor for the Bruiser chassis. This next step is installing the propeller shafts and the gear chain linkage. And now we need to install the motor onto the chassis and connect the prop shafts up to the front and rear diffs. The next three steps are all to do with the electronics and installing the two servos, one for the steering and one for the gear change. Fairly easy install, but I did mark them up, as you can see there, to make sure I didn't cock up when installing the rods. 30 is making up the steering rod and the gear shift rod, and both have servo savers attached to them, as you can see here. The next two steps are mounting the steering rods and the lower cover plate, and then mounting the ESC and receiver. We're now ready to install the electronics box into the chassis itself. These next three steps are all to do with the gear shift and what to do if you've only got 2-channel radio. We're almost done with the chassis now, just the battery box to go on and the body mounts and the bumpers. And as you can see, weirdly, the battery holder is just a tray, and then you've got elastic bands to hold the battery in place. The last two steps of the chassis build are sticking the tyres on the wheels and then sticking the wheels on the chassis. And this was quite hard. Those tyres are really hard and gave me blisters when doing them. We're now on to the bodywork, and as you can see, it's a hard plastic body. It's all white, it needs painting. We've got clear glass as well that needs painting. We start off by painting the cab and the flatbed. This being a hard body, I've gone with actual automotive paint, and it's a 3-stage process. You've got a black base coat, then the prismatic or metallic coat, and then lacquer. Once the paint's dried, we can start attaching some of the clear plastic that I've already painted with transparent paint for the side repeaters and the rear tail lights. Then moved on to making up the front bumper after painting that black, I think. And once I'd painted the front grille, I then attached the front lower bumper and the headlights to that, ready for fixing onto the front of the cab. The next step was to install the grille and also the door mirrors. Next to go on was the sleeper cab, and don't forget number plate as well. Can't miss out the number plate. Next up is joining the flatbed to the front of the cab and the side bumpers, for want of a better word. Now this kit also came with an interior, as you can see there, white, so I had to paint that, and I did go out and buy the driver figure for it as well, which you also have to stick together and then paint. And as you can see, I've gone over this with various blacks and browns. I think that was supposed to be leather, and then once I'd glued the driver together, I painted him quite a horrible blue and yellow, and then started off with the crash helmeted head. It comes with two heads, one with a crash helmet on and one with just the hair, that I had to do again, because with the crash helmeted head on, I couldn't get the cockpit to fit into the cab, so I had to do the one with just the hair. And the last two steps are installing the decals and then putting the body on, including gluing the windscreen wipers on. So I'll leave you with this montage of pictures showing more and more decals. I didn't put all of them on because I didn't do the box art paint. So with that, I hope you've enjoyed watching this, and look forward to seeing you on the next one. Thanks. Bye.